All right, guys, we are going to be reacting to the AfD has finally arrived in the West. Let's see what this video is all about. I don't know about that, but let's see what the video had to say about this.
Germany again. Today we had another state election in the beautiful state of Rhineland-Pfalz, Rhineland-Palatinate. It is a state in the west of Germany that shares a border with France, with the Saarland that many Germans actually want to sell to France, but that's the topic maybe of another video, and then with
Why?
Luxembourg and Belgium. It is also close to the Dutch border, but it's not directly bordering to the Netherlands. So it is part of this kind of Europe region, a very central European region with a lot of commerce, trade, and a lot of activity crossing borders here. Overall, I would say it's a very rural state. It is famous for its wine. I think about 70% of German wine comes from this state alone. It has a very old history going back to the early Roman settlements, the oldest cities in Germany like Worms, Speyer, Trier. I think Trier is the oldest one officially, and there are Roman settlements and Roman monuments that you can still see. And wine has been cultivated there for at least 2000 years. But at the same time, it is also a state that has many large cities. Mainz is the capital, and I think economically Ludwigshafen am Rhein should be the most important one economically, because this is where the BASF headquarters are, the large chemistry corporation that is facing a little bit of trouble in Germany with the high energy prices right now. So that is also important in terms of this election. But my impression has always been, if the boomer generation were a German state, it probably would be Rhineland-Palatinate. And you can see that in the voting behavior. CDUs and the SPD are very
See.
strong here still. These are the center-right and center-left most important parts of the
Hmm.
German Uni-Party. The famous German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, the Chancellor of the German reunification, came from this state, and so it was always a CDU powerhouse here, always under CDU rule up until the early 90s. I think it was in 1991 when the rule changed there. They got a social democrat, a socialist governor, because Helmut Kohl lied about the reunification, people say. He said that the
So Merkel world.
reunification can be managed without the need for increasing taxes. And as we all know in retrospect,
That's not
obviously,
possible.
that did not work out so well. So they got a socialist governor back
Hmm.
in the day. And since then, for over 30 years, they have been ruled by the Social Democrat Party. And the last ruling coalition here was a traffic light coalition, which is also the previous one that we had on the federal level, with the Socialists for red and the Green Party for green, and the so-called or self-styled Liberal Party FDP for yellow. That was the last such coalition that we had in Germany, and now it is safe to say that this episode is over for the time being, at least. And so, without further ado, I want to have a look with you into the preliminary results. These are not final results. The vote was today, the election was today. A lot of things might change overnight, but I don't think so. So the big winner, and I think the only actual winner of this election, is the AfD. They could more
All right.
than double their results since the last
Based on their performance, I guess. Whatever the last performer was, probably they did much better in this one, I guess.
elections. They have now, it seems like, around
Oh,
20%, which is insane for such a classical conservative, SPD, CDU based state like Rhineland-Palatinate. It is 1 out of 5 people there that voted for the AfD.
mm.
The CDU could win a little bit, but still just 30%, and the
Oh, I
SPD
see.
lost almost 10 percent points here.
Oh, I see.
the Communist Party and the Free Voters and also the self-styled liberal or pseudo-liberal party, they did not make it
Damn.
into parliament. As the results stand right now, they did not get over 5% of the votes, and that means they don't make it into parliament as a faction. So we end up with 8% Green Party, 20% AfD, 26% SPD, and 30 or 31% CDU. That means we will get another classical uniparty coalition between the CDU and the SPD, the center-right and the center-left party, so-called conservative.
And that's what they call also. That's a problem when you're dealing with the center. The problem is that the center, what it does, it just keeps the status quo, and they really don't fix problems. The AfD is just literally the AfD is gonna moderate into something much better in the future. However, I do believe that some of the leaders, especially the leader of the AfD currently, I don't think she's strong though. I don't think she's a strong candidate. She's strong. She doesn't have that. I don't know. Maybe you guys know more about this. Of course, you guys are Germans. You guys know more about this than myself. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you guys trust the AfD leader, the lady that's, I forgot her name now. Damn.
With a so-called working party.
My bad, I just forgot the name.
They are absolute globalists and they don't really want to work for the German people. They work for people that are not from here, that have nothing to do with us. And everything they say is basically a lie. They form the large building blocks of the Uniparty, and most of their voters are really old and they just vote for them because they have always voted for them. I have read that the AfD won the election among younger voters, so I think it's 18 to 25, so these young or first-time voters, so to speak, they really favored the AfD. That is a good sign, of course. And we also see that in those cities where many jobs were in danger or where many people lost their jobs because of the insane anti-German policies of the ruling globalist cabal, we see there that the AfD did really well. So I think it's a really good sign that all these small parties, especially the FDP, that they didn't make it into parliament. The FDP was always a party that promised things like lower taxes or moving away again from insane carbon taxation and green policies, but they never delivered. And this is why we don't need this party anymore. They are a party of liars. They don't deliver in the end. Some things they say sound nice, just like the CDU under Merz. They campaigned on deporting massive numbers of people and closing the borders. They delivered no such thing, and this is why.
This makes more sense. See, this is actually eye-opening. So the SPD lost some support. The SDU just kept themselves right there in the battle, but then the AfD is the one coming up. Okay, I see.
It is really good that the FDP didn't make it into parliament, but at the same time, it is a mystery to me. Well, not really, but in an ideal world with rational people, the CDU should also have below 5%, actually. But once again, the voters of the SPD and the CDU, they're old. They don't keep up with politics. They don't know what's going on. They don't really follow the news. So even from the mainstream media, you can get this information, but they're still living in the 70s pretty much. But you can see the downward trend. And now we see something, and the polls in states where there weren't elections recently, they show that too. In Western Germany, the AfD is now around 20%. In some states a little more, in some states, especially in the north, a little less, but around 20%. 1 out of 5 people in the western part of the country. In central Germany, it is 1 out of 3. The AfD is between 30 and 40%. 1 out of 3 people roundabout in central Germany are voting for the AfD, which yields in total federally around 25%, 1 out of 4. These are the basic numbers. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4. This is how Germany looks now politically. And
Mm.
also, I have to say that when you look at the timeline in central Germany, we can now say that in Western Germany, the AfD stands now where the AfD in central Germany stood 5 years ago. It was
Oh.
5 years ago that they cracked the 20% level in the East. And now we're there in the West, where, as in the East, I just told you, we're between 30 and 40% right now. So that means Western Germany is not a different animal or a different ball game.
It's just
No,
regular
they're
folks.
just 5 years behind in terms of
Wow.
realization, in terms of awakening, in terms of figuring out what is actually going on. But they're starting to see, they're starting to listen, and they're starting to understand and grasp the totality and the insanity of what has been done and is being done to our country and our people. So, this is a huge white pill for Germany and for all European patriots. Of course, now this time for Rhineland-Palatinate, not much will change. The CDU will rule. There will be a CDU governor together with the SPD. They will rule as always. But the AfD is strong. Once again, I tell you, they can be a strong, potent opposition force. They can shine light on issues that the globalists want to sweep under the carpet, and they can put pressure to places where it really hurts the globalists. They can do that in their role as strongest, or dare I say, only actual opposition force in parliament. And they are not weak as a faction. They have over 20% of the seats in parliament as it stands right now. Once again, this is preliminary, but 24 out of 101 seats. That might still change overnight, but that is like 23%. That is not a small party by any means. Anyway,
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. No, he has BitChute and Odyssey. Yeah, I used to just watch BitChute. BitChute is too crazy for me. Yeah, BitChute is too crazy for me sometimes. I stopped watching it years ago. I do think that and there's a great opportunity here for Germany. Again, I don't think things are really going to change in the next couple of years until things really hit rock bottom. That's what I think. That's what I think. Even though, let's say there's a hypothesis here, right? I'm just playing here devil's advocate. Let's say the AfD gets into power. How will the AfD just even implement their own agenda with the current climate in Europe? Because in Germany, even AfD wins. I don't. The question is, does Germany control their borders? If they want to really deport, let's say, I think there was Germany were trying to deport 1.5 million asylums, and then they got rejected because the people, the countries from origins of these people, they don't want to accept them. So what do you do even there? Like, there's a lot of questions that I'm very ignorant about, of course, and I don't have the answers, and that's why I have you guys here, and that way you guys can help me with that. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the next one.